Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode for One Up Gaming. This is your host, Alex, and I'm here with your co host, Akela. It's been a busy couple of weeks, wouldn't you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. There have been way too many games that we've had to play this last couple of
Yeah,
weeks.
as you realize, we missed this last week. We've been trying to catch up with a whole bunch of games. As you know, there was a week that we had three games that came out at once. We were trying to get into Zelda, trying to catch up into that. Then you had the week of Silent Hill 2, Metaphor came out, and everything just how gaming is. We just get a bunch of games at once. And so today, guys, we're very excited because we're gonna be going dive into the abyss. We're gonna talk about Silent Hill 2. We finished the game this last week. We put about 18 hours. How would you say the experience was, Akila?
Well, first I want to put a disclaimer out there. He played the game while I watched. I'm too much of a chicken to play it on my own. I don't like scary things in general, so I don't like scary movies and whatnot. But I did think that Silent Hill 2 was going to have a very intriguing story, and so I wanted to know what it was, but I didn't want to experience it firsthand. But it was, what we did experience, it was pretty interesting. I won't be able to comment too much on mechanics, just kind of observations I made based off of how you played. But story-wise, I think there's a lot of interesting things that can be discussed about this game. I get why a lot of people probably thought it was super cool back in the day when they made it the first time, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it was my first time playing this game, too. I didn't get to play it back in the day. So that, got me excited because I knew that this was a big deal back in PlayStation 2 era. Even PlayStation 1 with the first one. Yeah, with the disclaimer is that, she played it with me, and I played pretty much. She could probably say a lot about the story. I could tell you a lot about the gameplay.
Yeah.
I mean, I could tell you a bunch about the story, too, but, so yeah, let's just dive in, shall we?
Yeah. Well, I think we should start maybe with the gameplay part, just because I think there's going to be more things that we're going to want to talk about related to the story. So, from my observation, it seemed like gameplay was overall decent. It didn't seem like amazing. You can always correct me on this, but it seemed like there was a dodging mechanic. You had the different guns you could use. You had a melee weapon that you could use. And then you had really that was all the major mechanics that you used.
Yeah.
Sometimes it seemed like your dodging mechanic was kind of trashy, and same with the melee stuff. But I mean, everything with the gun seemed fine, seemed practically normal to me, at least.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Gameplay was very basic. There wasn't really much to it. The dodging was it felt a little clunky to me. Now, I see other people's, I think these are probably peoples that played the game back in the day that play this game and didn't die as much as I did. Maybe it's because I was trash playing it. I have no idea. I mean, I play other survival horror games, and for some reason, this one, I was dodging, and sometimes it wasn't being responsive to me. Sometimes I was trying to use the club.
Well, I swear
Or
there
the
were a couple
pipe.
times it was like, I'm standing far away enough, and then all of a sudden you get hit really bad, and it's like, oh, well, I guess not.
Right. And sometimes, the enemies would just hit you twice for some reason, you don't expect it. And I mean, I guess that was just probably me trying to rush it out, cuz sometimes I'm that kind of player too, when I try to combat, I try to rush things out sometimes. And most in this kind of game when I'm expecting the gameplay to be a little how to explain it? Not as hard. Most because this game at first, as we start the game, it didn't give me the vibe of this is gonna be a challenge, and it never was. But there were some areas where it's I'm just gonna rush this part. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna fight the enemies here. I'm just gonna avoid them.
I mean,
You know?
when you think about games, you do that exact same thing in Resident Evil. I've seen that one too.
Right.
You just run past the dude because they're slower than you or something, and it's just not worth it.
Well, but I just feel like in Resident Evil, there's definitely way more action to the game because that's just how the game. That's just how they have it done. And I feel like the only reason why, and here's the thing is like sometimes you can kill enemies and they give you resources. When you kill the enemies, they leave something on the ground. In Silent Hill, they don't leave you anything, so it's kind of useless to fight them if you think about it, other than get them out of the way and you want to explore the area.
I guess that's a pretty fair point.
Yeah, and so I guess that's why sometimes I didn't feel like it was like the combat is like useful to do, even though they have it for immersion, probably. You know, how's the scary game gotta be scary without scary enemies, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I didn't like play it, but I feel like just in general, having simple mechanics isn't always that bad, you know, because it let them kind of focus on what I think is the most important part of Silent Hill, right? Which is the whole storyline and mostly the fear factor, right? From all the games we've played kind of in this genre together, I mean, I've watched you play 4 games I would consider that are kind of part of this genre. So we've done Resident Evil 7. We've done Resident Evil 4. I think Alan Wake 2 kind of fits into this category as well.
It does. Technically does.
It does. And then now Silent Hill 2. And so I feel like out of the 4 of them, the only one that might be able to compete was Resident Evil 7. That one was really creepy, especially when like the dad would just come out of nowhere after you thought you've killed him. But I think this one was also probably one of the scarier ones, especially with all the fog and the creepy noises, especially at the beginning. Like those noises like were absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. Alan Wake is a very interesting one because I thought that one was scary mostly because, yeah, you hear some voices sometimes. And every so often they gave you a jump scare, but it didn't feel like as scary as Silent Hill 2. Like, that one felt like it was good for different reasons. Resident Evil 4 was, I think the beginning is the most scary part. You know, you get into the town farming area in Spain, and you all of a sudden, you know, you have the whole scene with the farming people.
Yeah.
Until they like ring the bell of the church, and they're like, "Ooh, la campana."
Well, the thing is about that one is I think you kind of we already were under the impression that one's supposed to be more of an action-packed game anyways.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously that one for me did go like the lowest on the totem pole out as scary.
Yeah, definitely.
But, you know, it's obviously still part of the horror genre, I would definitely say.
Yeah, and to me, the scary part of Silent Hill 2 is not just what you mentioned too. Is I think I remember it was right after the hospital. I think it was as we got to this historical society, I think it was called, and we were just starting going down into these pits, and like we did the prison part, and we went to the other world again, and all of a sudden you had like you were just walking through these halls where it was like just white cloth, bloody, all destroyed. You know, it was the part when you fought Pyramid Head, and it's like face to face. There's this very like narrow space.
Yeah.
Like that whole area was creepy, like scary.
Well, I think you bring up a good point with the hallway. So, I mean, obviously it's 10 times scarier when you're facing up Pyramid Head in this tight little hallway because, like, that's absolutely terrifying. But I think that's where this game really succeeded, is when you had to navigate these very skinny hallways in very tight areas, and you had to, you know, try and find your way through, and you had to, like, survive the enemies. Every time you were in one of those situations, it felt way more tense. I felt tense just watching. I was like, you know, plugging my ears half the time because I was worried that there would be one of those jump scares. from behind some weird object or something from one of the enemies.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that I felt that way too. I mean, as I was playing it, I was all of a sudden hearing noises of walking through those halls, and it was just, it was pretty cool,
Yeah.
being honest.
I mean, I did get eventually used to the sounds. Like, I realized that by the time we were in the last stretch of the game, I was like, oh, I'm not plugging my ears often, because I just kind of got used to, like, going, oh, this specific sound just means that there's enemies, like, around the corner. You know, I still would get a little scared when they jump out if I wasn't ready. But, you know, like, after a while, those things, I think you just kind of get used to them. But,
yeah,
I mean, overall, I think it's a really good at being scary. The fog, especially, and the darkness, like you literally couldn't see anything outside of your flashlight area for the most part, and that's absolutely like,
I mean, I think
nerve wracking.
I think that's fine, even though for gameplay purposes, it was a little annoying. Just, you can't see that much, but for, like we mentioned, the immersion purpose of this is a game that's supposed to make you feel claustrophobic, makes you feel scared or like creeped out of where you are or confused of why you're doing what you're doing, because that's pretty much a whole playthrough. It's like, why are we doing what we're doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think this game succeeded in that, in giving us that experience that we expect from a survival horror.
Yeah. Well, there's one thing I do wish that they had done a little bit more, though.
Mm-hmm.
I do almost wish that there were a few more appearances from Pyramid Head. So I think about when you're in the apartments, right? And you see him just standing there behind the...
That was a good introduction, I'll say.
It was a good introduction, but the problem is like, that was probably the most scary moments other than the times you battled him, right? But I think, like, having more moments where you think you almost see him, or you do kind of see him somewhere in the distance or somewhere, like, you can't reach, but somewhere you need to go, like, that was terrifying, because your brain is going, what if I see him? Like, what if I run in? Like, it keeps you on edge a little bit more.
Yeah. I will say, I think kind of like, Resident Evil 7, I can go back to when you have the father, and the father's like, is like looking for you through the whole mansion, like through the whole, not mansion, like the whole house, and you're like hiding, trying to make sure he doesn't see you. If he does see you, it's like an instant kill, pretty much. I mean, that would have been an extra if, like, you had him in these areas, like Pyramid Head, and, like, you just had to be careful, because if he sees you...
Yeah, that would have been so scary.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think that would have changed some of, I guess, the design of some of the dungeons, kind of areas that you're doing. I mean, if you have done one, that would have been cool, but at the end of the day, this is a remake, so they just try to stay true to what it was.
Yeah. Kind of adapt what they had before and improve the things that are bad and keep the things that are good. Unfortunately, we don't know much about all those changes, but I feel like it played well. Thinking of kind of the gameplay and stuff, I started thinking about the puzzles as well. I thought most of the puzzles were pretty fun. I thought a lot of them were clever. Did they get a little bit repetitive? Yeah. I remember I heard someone else say that before we played it, and I was like, that can't be true. But then by the time we were on like puzzle 4 or 5, I was like, yeah, it's a little true. They're all kind of a similar concept. Is you find the thing, you have to go get the objects for the thing, and then you have to solve the puzzle on that thing after you've found, the pieces.
I'll be honest, this was one of the... Out of all the survival horror games, I think this is the one that I kind of felt a little disappointed with the puzzles. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't feel there was that much of a difference of how to solve them. Most of the time it was, okay, you go to this area that's the only area that's open, follow the path, and you will eventually find the first piece. That will open the next area, and you'll eventually find the second piece. Now, there was for example, there's the clock puzzle. I thought it was cool. There was the puzzles where you can you had to, you had to read a piece of paper. You have to read some kind of a poem or whatever in order to figure out, like, for example, in the clock puzzle, figure out like in which places does the clock handles go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think the game uses that resource a lot. That it gets repetitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the clock one was cool at first. The one before it was also cool. I think that was
So there's the one for
the
the
jukebox.
jukebox at first.
And
Yeah.
that one was fine because that one kind of helps you explore the town of Silent Hill at first, right? You have to go into some of the different buildings and spots to grab things, and then you can do the jukebox. It's not hard, and then, you go. I swear there's another one in between that one and the clock.
There is one probably. I just can't remember.
I don't remember either. I could be wrong, but. Then you've got the clock one, right? And it's something similar, right? You have to go find a hand in one place, and then you get the other hand in another place, and then you just, like you said, put them in the right spot, and then it opens up an area.
I remember now. So before you do the clock one, you have to find the coins. There's like these 3 coins.
Oh, yeah.
And you're in the apartments, and you have to find the old man, you have to find the maid, and the serpent.
That's right.
Yeah.
I thought that one was cool. But I just think it's because I liked the riddle of how you solved it on the thing. I didn't care for finding how you found the coins. It was kind of like a, like you said, the linear. You just follow the story stuff, and it just appears when it appears.
I like the riddle part because the riddle part, it was kind of like, it was not poem-like, but you know what I mean. Like, it was kind of rhyming.
Yeah.
And it would give you, like, the clue, like, oh, the old man goes here, the maid goes here, serpent goes here. And then, the next one, the maid's escaping from the old man. She's scared of him. She's getting closer to I think at first it's actually a flower. And then it becomes a serpent.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I thought it was a cool puzzle. But I feel like after that, they just kept using the same
type of puzzle.
That it was like, I mean, they're okay, but it's just getting a little repetitive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that the combat is very repetitive because the enemies you're facing all the time are pretty repetitive.
Well, I mean, there's really only 3 enemies, and then there's like a upgraded version of 2 of them, I would say.
Now, I understand the enemies are like in the story. There's a reason why they're the way they are, and you don't want other types. I mean, I feel like you could have other types that are connected to the story, but I just felt like just the 3 enemies was a little too. It felt too repetitive to me.
Yeah.
It was kind of like there's the mannequin guy, 2 legs we called it.
I called him legs.
We called him legs, and it's like at first it's scary because he's like hiding in very obscure places, but then you've seen him so much that you're just like looking around every corner, and you see him standing there.
He's gonna be all around that corner, and
I'm like,
sure enough, there he is.
And I'm like, oh, he's gonna be there, and I go, he's there, and they just start shooting or hitting him.
I mean, the only time those ones got a little scary is when they could start climbing walls, but then at the same time, I don't think the scare factor was enough because just watching you try and shoot them down from the ceilings was the worst thing ever.
That was so horrible. That was part of the gameplay that I didn't really like, which was how they handle that.
Well, from what I understand, I read something that said that was something new they added from what I read. And so, like, before they didn't do that, and that was something they added for this game. I don't think they should have.
It makes sense. It was a fixed camera before. They wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like they should have just kept it that way. I wouldn't. This was not. This didn't feel good to me.
Well, the problem is the ceilings were all so tall, and then your flashlight only reaches so far, and then they'd move so fast, and so combination of all 3 of those things just made them seem almost impossible to get. And then your only chance is really if they almost jump at you right from there. But, half the time you can't see, and you're just trying to run around and find stuff, and they just do it so randomly. So, like, I feel like you got hit so many times from that just because they they would come out, they'd hit you once, and they scramble back up a wall into the darkness. And
It's
it's like,
oh,
great.
there goes my chance to kill him. Seriously, I think there was a part in the prison that was awful because like all of a sudden you had all these things crawling around, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna run for it.
Yeah, in the prison especially.
Yeah, and that's where they start showing up. And there was and you have these different prison areas where you have them like excessive amount of them. That I was like, okay, I'm just gonna try to run for them because I'm already low of health. I'm not gonna take a risk here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you're low on health and ammo, and you're like, every drawer you open up, you're like, health, that's all I need. Oh no, it's just another ammo.
That's another thing I felt like. I mean, I like I said, it could be because I'm trash, but like I felt like I had more ammo than I needed, and like at the end they were like, okay, I need health, and I got the ending I got because I didn't get health. So I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you're ready, I'm ready to start talking about this story because boy, do I have opinions on this one.
Are they good or bad opinions?
You will know in a minute.
Yeah, I'm down to start talking about this one because I mean this is the main reason why this remake was made for. People love this story.
Yeah, so obviously we went into this story completely blind. We didn't have any previous knowledge of what it was. I've never, heard any of the lore, the story of it. So for me, that part was pretty cool, being able to experience it literally 100% like first timers. And so I'm going to be honest though, because of that, it left me feeling a little lost by the end of the game.
Same.
And so obviously us having to do our research, we had to go watch some videos about the story to see if we could piece together better the kind of what it was about.
It made me feel good to know that some of these people, when they played it first time back in the day, they felt the same way as we did. Lost.
Yeah, I
I
know.
had no idea what's happening here.
And now it makes me want to play it a second time through, actually. Well, watch you play it again. And, pay more close attention to those story details and some of those things, because I feel like maybe that would bring better understanding to the overall story. But obviously we probably won't have time with that with all the games we have to play all the time. So maybe one day.
I mean, I'm survival horror games are always games I'm down to play again. And this is definitely a game I'm down to play again. Experience again. Because it will be a complete total experience, Like this time I'm like, okay, I'm aware of the story. I know what happens. I know why I'm here now.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, just the little memos you collect, the little things you collect about the town or about the story. I feel like those things will connect the dots a little bit with what James is and his relationship with Mary and all the stuff. Yeah.
Well, it makes me think a lot of like those thriller kind of movies as well. So the first one that comes to my mind is like Shutter Island, right?
Yeah.
The first time you watch that, right, you get like so like whoa in the mind when you watch it, and then you watch it a second time and it's almost better because you're like, oh, that thing over there. Oh, like you start to see all the clues to the ending and what it actually is, and it's such a cool experience. So I feel like that would actually be really fun to do with this game, is you would probably start to notice all these little details and go, oh, that's what that is. Oh, that's pretty cool how that's tied in. And
yeah, and that's also a cool thing is I think we watched some video about how James at the beginning looks like or what he's doing, like, and we see how he acts at the beginning when he look at himself in the mirror in the remake with and compared to the original. And it was so interesting how in the original he doesn't look like, they look different.
Yeah.
Like how they act. I think like in the remake he looks more like, yeah, he's facing some kind of trauma, or like, he's
looks very nervous, shaky.
He's shaking. Like I think they did a good job at least of showing you what's happening with him a little bit, or cluing you in. than the first one, but it's just a different vibe, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think one thing with this story, though, is that unfortunately for me, because I got confused by the end, it wasn't like a big W. Like, and my only real comparison on this one is with Alan Wake 2. So I know that one's not nearly as scary, but I remember coming out of that game going, oh my gosh, that was absolutely insane. Even though I was actually confused very much throughout most of that game as well. Just like I felt like in this game. I felt very confused throughout most of it. But that one, I felt like it gave me a proper conclusion and it gave me some decent explanations about it. And on top of that, it didn't make me feel like I had to play the first game to understand some things. And that's one thing that this game to me fails in. Because obviously Silent Hill 2 was to follow up Silent Hill 1 back in the day. But the problem is like, I get lost with the difference between the lore and all of the story with the town of Silent Hill and then James' experiences. And they're two separate things, and they come together in this game in Silent Hill 2. But the thing is I don't understand anything about the town because that was explained, I guess, in the first game. And they don't make me feel like I can play the second game without having that. I feel like I need it still. Like I'm missing a puzzle piece to fully understand Silent Hill 2. I feel like I need the first one as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a good comparison. At the same time, I think it's a lot of the storytelling, right? I feel like Alan Wake 2 is not just... I mean, think about it. Like, Silent Hill 2 is a remake. So, I think if I would approach this remake, I would have tried to do like, it's already cinematic. But I will have done my best to make it even more cinematic than what it was. Because Alan Wake 2 was, like, very movie-like experience. Like they're hitting you with different stuff every time. Like they're constantly showing you all these clues and cinematics and things that you're just like, your mind's just being blown every time. One, I think Silent Hill 2, you start, I don't know, you're being confused. You have like a little cinematic with Angela, and then there's this whole big gap in between to have the next one where they're very anticlimactic. They feel like there's not like, it doesn't feel like there's a
high stakes, maybe.
Right. It doesn't feel like there's high stakes, and maybe that's just how the developers wanted the game to be, you know, make you feel confused the whole time, just like James was. Maybe. Because it does feel very anticlimactic. It's like you're talking to Angela and there's this kind of Death Note music going around. While in Alan Wake, you had the action and just how a movie feels. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but I think you get me.
I kind of get where you're coming at. I definitely think the issue, though, why Silent Hill doesn't work on that part is because you're not really given any extra information by the time you come to the end of the game about any of the characters or why they're there or what happens. And this is the one thing that, for me, like a good example of why this confuses me. So, for example, at one point, you find some note that talks about 3 patients, right? That are, like, got a lot of issues, that are admitted, I think, into the hospital or something, right? Yeah. There's this thing about 3 patients, right? And I'm over here going, oh, it has to be related to our characters, right? And so now I'm trying to decide, out of the 6 characters we've been introduced to, 3 of them have to be part of these crazy patients, right? Like, to me, that's the only logical thing. And then at the end of the game, you find 3 graves, and like in me, that's the confirmation. Those 3 characters are
after the prison, I think.
Yeah. But then there's nothing really tied to why there are those 3 graves. There's nothing really tying me as to if that's actually true or if I'm just making connections where they don't belong, right? But then why would there be 3 graves? Why would there be 3 patients listed in that thing?
The game doesn't really clue you into like what's what.
Yeah. So for example, like, you know, we were listening something and they were saying, oh, Angela with her knife, it's because she murdered someone with the knife. That's why it's so important, you know, to her. But the game doesn't really indicate to me that she murdered anybody with it. To me, it feels like she just, it was only meant for like suicide purposes. Like she didn't want to.
Right. I'll be honest. That's how I took it too.
But
yeah,
and so like you go, oh, Silent Hill is calling all these people because of trauma. Well, are you calling people because of trauma or because they're sinners? Right? It's kind of like where I get confused.
Yeah.
Like, which one is it? It can't be one or both because it feels like they're all being punished to some degree. And it's like, well, okay, is it all just self-inflicted or is it related to the town? Or, like, it just doesn't connect.
Yeah, and I think coming out of it, I guess to answer that, I think it's mostly like the sinner, like you killed someone as well. Because at the end, all three of them technically killed someone.
Yeah, but they don't even make that clear. They don't even make it clear that James is a killer. They don't make it clear. Like, you see the one video where he supposedly suffocates his wife, but it's very unclear. It's very fuzzy, the video. And then they don't confirm it with you in the end. I mean, he says it to her, but the problem is then you've got this whole, letter from her and all of these things that make it feel like, oh, maybe he didn't actually, like, kill her. Maybe it's just a figment of, of speech. That he, like, whatever, did something else, neglected her, stopped caring for her, hated her. Like, there's all sorts of other meanings you could use for that. And maybe that's part of what they want. I just wish there was a little more clarification on, for me personally. Maybe other people would disagree. Maybe other people would like
I personally
that ambiguity.
I'll be honest. I'm going to make a point here. I do think this game, for being a remake and for being made for the, being made for the time we're in, I do think the story, how it's structured, is very much how game stories, most of them were structured back in the day. I do think they did not put the resource into, okay, how do we tell the story a better way so people now can understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, probably, I don't know how it happened in development. Maybe that's what they wanted to do, and the original team in Konami were like, no, let's keep it the same way, because the reason why we keep it this way is to have the feeling that you're clueless about everything. I don't know. Or like the feeling of you're trying to find your way through. Just feel like James is. Because that's basically it. You're feeling just as confused as James is. You have no idea why you're there.
Yeah.
First of all.
Yeah.
You see all these people and you're like, why are these people here?
But that's where it kills me, is because some of them are figments and some of them are not.
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like if you were lost in the mind of James, like, I feel like those people would come off differently in his mind, or, like, I just feel like, we were watching one of the videos and they were saying, oh yeah, well, everybody experiences the town differently, right? That's why Eddie thinks all the people are laughing at him. That's why he murders a bunch of other random people that are supposed to be in the town.
Yeah.
And then Angela, at the end you see her, she's like, it always looks like on fire. Everything seems like, it's burning to the ground.
And she sees her brother and father the whole time.
Yeah, and she can see those guys. And then, we see it as this old, empty, dead, disgusting town, right? And I mean, I think that's a cool idea on its own.
With monsters that look like women.
Yeah, with monsters that look like women. But the thing is like, they come off as their normal selves to him and his messed up town vision. And I feel like if you were, like, psychopathic, or if you were having a delusion, right, like, those people would come off as different in your delusion, like you would come off different in their delusion, right? That's why in the end, Eddie tries to kill you, because all of a sudden you look like all the other people in his delusion, laughing at him and thinking he's a fat slob, right?
Well, I mean, technically for Angela, you do too, because Angela, sometimes she does feel like you're trying to touch her. Like,
yeah.
But we're not acting like that.
Yeah, exactly. But they don't come off as anything more than just normal people in ours. And I don't know, like, maybe I just don't understand his psyche, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah.
And why it does everything that it does.
What do you think of Maria?
Maria?
Yeah.
Maria was an interesting character.
Just technically the whole haunt is the whole haunt they have for James.
I mean, I figured out pretty quickly once you saw her the second time after she was supposed to have died that she wasn't like real per se.
Right.
I thought it was kind of funny that she was named similar to Mary but not Mary. And like after, researching the story, and they basically said she's kind of almost a manifestation of
Mary.
what he wishes Mary could have been, because she gets sick and she becomes something else, and it's like her but more sexualized because he has drives and he obviously hasn't probably been doing anything with her, and he hasn't cheated in the game. Because honestly, my first thought when I saw her actually was that she was like a manifestation of his lovers that he cheated on his wife with, like something like that. But she was named similar, to like torture him or something.
But then when you learn all these things, it kind of makes more sense to me, because then she takes you then to a club, which is where people that are looking for that kind of thing, to a strip club, people that are looking for that kind of thing, that have a strong drive like he does, and they feel alone. Like I think eventually that her character to me and that whole part makes sense to me. I do think that to me is like the coolest part of the whole torture they do to him through the whole game. I mean, I feel bad for him, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, to me as a spectator, it was kind of cool just seeing how the feelings that he had were depicted just through that, and how Pyramid Head and just the whole town was torturing him with that. I thought that was just a cool concept.
Yeah, it was a cool concept. I did get a little annoyed though, because the one moment she's like, "I want you," and he's like, "No," and then she gets killed and he's like crying, and I'm like, but you didn't act like you cared for, like you acted like how you would treat a random stranger that you don't want to die. Like, people don't obviously want random people to die, but some of his reactions were more like, like I'm in love with you, and it's like, yes, but no.
Can I just tell you, I watched a video for all the endings, and there's an ending where you leave with Maria.
What?
Yeah. So there's an ending where if you check, because there's times where you have Maria like in a room.
Yeah, like in the hospital.
If you check on her, and like, I don't know how many times, but if you check on her like a desperate dog, and if you like, when she's with you, if you make sure that she doesn't get hurt or something, there is an ending where she lives with you, like, and you leave the town with her, like, literally. It's kind of interesting.
Weird.
And he's like a jerk. There's like they're going to the car, and like all of a sudden he hears her like cough, and he's like, "Well, you gotta stop with that coughing."
Oh my gosh. I did not know about that one. I mean, we learned about the two main endings, the one where he just reads the letter or whatever and accepts his life, and the other one where he drives off the, the thing. That was the one we saw, but I did not know that one existed too. Yeah. Like in the remake as well?
Yeah, no, in the remake. I don't know about the original, but in the remake they have that ending. It's the Maria ending.
Oh.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting, because it's like, you better stop coughing.
Well, of course, because his wife died from illness. Coughing is a sign of illness.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Anything else?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we didn't really dive much into the other characters' stories either.
Oh yeah, Eddie and Angela.
Yeah.
And Laura.
Yeah, Laura. She was an interesting character that I still don't understand at all. She doesn't fit in my brain in the story in any way, shape, or form. Like
in what sense?
Well, the thing is right, this town is manifesting to people differently, but the town would have to be abandoned no matter what in order for a little girl to just freely roam around and for a guy to be battling things. Like, 'cause imagine, like, unless you, like, made it clear that he wasn't actually battling any enemies in the real, like, physically. They were all still, like, mentally. Right. But the thing is they make it very, like, a physical battle. And
Yeah.
so, like, I imagine, like, if that was a crazy person, they would literally be swinging stuff around in a town. And if there were real people, he'd get arrested.
There is a scene where I think where James asks her, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing here? Like, be careful out there. And she's like, careful with what? Because she can't see any of the monsters. She can't see anything. That's like the only time they clue you in that she can't see anything.
Well, and that's fine. But my point is why would a little girl be running around an abandoned town in the first place, in general? Unless there are people in the town, but then that means he's just walking around a town full of people acting crazy. Or is he literally just all in his head? But no, because he meets Angela and Eddie. See, this is where my
Laura
issues
is
come.
a real person.
And Laura's supposed to be a real person. So see where my issues.
I just have a feeling they didn't. I don't feel like they explained the Laura part very well. She got a letter from Mary as well, and I have a feeling maybe that's why she's in Silent Hill, because Mary wanted to go back to Silent Hill, and they develop a relationship, but they don't really show you very well how that works.
But how would a little girl get there?
Right, like
who was supposed to be in the hospital? We don't even know why she was in the hospital. I mean, my assumption is it was cancer for both of them, but
or maybe just nobody knows really exactly what she's supposed to be. Or why she's there.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's still just out there in the clouds. Maybe.
I mean, because
I'm wrong. I don't know.
one of the things explains it kind of like she's like a symbol of innocence, right? And that's why you see her with Eddie because he believes he's innocent. That's why you see her with James because he feels like he at first that he's hasn't done anything wrong. That's why you don't see her with Angela because Angela feels very, very guilty, even though she's supposedly more of a victim than anything. And that's why you don't see her with Maria, but that's because Maria is a figment of James' imagination, not a real person. But like that's fine, that makes sense. But the issue is that destroys some of the storytelling for me. So you know what I mean? I feel like this game wanted to put all of these, symbols and all of these like things that mean, like metaphors and yeah, I know metaphor, but. I knew you were gonna laugh at that one. But they put all these things that have different meanings, but they don't fit into a concise story.
I think that's maybe the point of it.
I hate that.
And that's fine because I think storytelling wise, this game is not the greatest.
No, it's not.
But in terms of symbolism and Laura is here. Why? Just to show that innocence. And these people here are not innocent, and that whatever they're seeing is fake.
I mean, and that
Literally.
Makes a little bit of sense in a way because when he finally admits to killing his wife, if he actually legit did, right? I still feel like I'm not even sure about that, but and that would make sense, right? Because he finally admits to his guilt, and she runs away, and he never sees her again. In that, in that scenario,
right? Well. And, and then all the monsters stop haunting you, because all of a sudden the monsters are like, you saw it. They're all on the floor, crawling around. They were not trying to kill you. Then you fight the pyramid heads. The pyramid heads just killed themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's an ending when you leave with Laura, which is a good ending.
Yeah.
The one you don't kill yourself. So. Yeah.
Yeah. That I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's why I feel like I'm confused about if he killed her or not, because it feels like almost like it could have been either or, they wanted you to be able to say it can be both.
My understanding from that ending is that he gets to see the letter, so that's why. So because Mary asks him to move on, he moves on. But
let me give you a but. Remember how after the game we were talking about the beginning of the letter is the one he reads?
Yes.
At the very beginning.
Now, this is crazy because I kind of feel like, you're into a point here. Keep going.
Well, okay, so at the beginning of the game, right, you hear Mary speaking, and it's this letter that he got from her, supposedly, saying she was in Silent Hill, which is why he goes to Silent Hill. But at the end of the game, you get to hear the letter that he was supposedly missing when Lauren gave him the envelope, right?
Mm.
But the thing is the beginning is the exact same, but then it continues on and says, some other things, right? And so I feel like
He had the letter.
he had the letter at the beginning, but he was so delusional that like the only part he could consciously attach his mind to was the beginning part of how she was alive in Silent Hill, where she really wasn't, right? I just think,
Which I think that's probably the kind of like ghost haunting kind of thing. It's like, ooh, Silent Hill's calling for me.
yeah,
I think that's kind of what it was in the, if you can, if that's how I see it. It's like the letter, he sees it a different way because it's like the town calling for him because he's a sinner.
I don't know.
And you have to pay for your sins for you to actually know what's in the letter.
But see, that's where my thing is that's why it feels like maybe in one of the scenarios he technically doesn't actually kill her. It's more of the metaphorical one, and that's why he walks out with Lauren, because he can accept he can accept those feelings that he was terrible, but what's happened's happened. She's gone. He needs to move on. Whereas the other one is he literally did murder her, and he can't move on because he's so guilty about what he's done to her. And
because then and also the ways you get the endings is kind of interesting too, because it's like there's the ending we got where it's like technically you look like a suicidal person, like you're trying to, like you're looking at what was the there was the if you're running out of health and you're not healing yourself, for example.
yeah,
Or I think I saw like, oh, if you look at Angela's knife, that's supposedly activating the one ending.
one storyline.
But there's also the eggs and the apples.
Yeah.
Like, we use we use the rotten apple, and apparently we use the rusty egg.
Yeah.
Apparently. So if you use the scarlet egg and you use the ripe apple,
Yeah.
and you try to keep yourself healthy
and alive.
because you care about your life still. You want to move on, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
While the other one's kind of explaining like you don't care anymore. You don't care about yourself anymore. This is kind of like,
But see, more symbolism, more backwards meaning.
And I think that's cool.
I mean, looking back at it now, even just talking about it in this podcast, I actually feel like better about all the symbolism. It's just when I came out of the game, I felt disappointed because I didn't have that aha moment like I did a couple of those other ones that we've played together. And I guess that's where my disappointment stemmed from, is I heard it seemed like it was supposed to have like a really good story, and I was expecting some big reveal at the end, right? Because it was all this confusion. I felt like there was all this buildup, and I was waiting for this really cool conclusion, and it didn't happen. And I was like, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, like, I think all the symbolism is cool. I think all of the things that everything means, each piece on its own is super like intriguing and cool for sure.
And I mean, going in another piece of symbolism that I thought was cool is the ending, because you fight Maria as she's trying to personally marry, and I just thought it was cool that at the end when you finish the fight, she's like laying down like Mary was laying down in bed, and you have to shoot her. I thought it was, yeah. You didn't think about that? I thought about that.
I totally didn't think about it.
I'm pretty sure someone mentioned it in one of the videos. I can't remember.
If they did, I didn't hear it. But
I thought it was cool because it's like, you're just doing it again.
My mind is blown. For me, that's almost confirmation that he definitely murdered her.
Yeah, exactly. It's like she's like laying down saying James, and in order to continue, you have to shoot her.
Oh my gosh. Seriously, mind blown. I didn't even think about that.
I'm glad it could
seriously, this
blow some minds out in here.
I mean, I guess let's say that's one of the positives of this game, is that there are so many little things that you can see like that. And that's exactly why it would be worth to go back and play a second time.
Yeah. And I do think that's why also people loved it. because people like these kinds of things because they see them like Easter eggs.
Yeah.
See, and I played games where I played like example Call of Duty Zombies. They have a bunch of Easter eggs, and you get to learn the story and stuff.
Even though the story makes
and,
absolutely no
it makes
sense.
it makes a whole community of people trying to figure out and make theories and stuff. And I think that's what, I think that's why this game was so popular back in the day, is that it had people talking about it. It made people start talking, and people start getting interested about it. People that keep playing it and they don't understand, and get into the community and start talking, make theories, make this signifies this is this. I think that's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, I definitely would say this game is worth checking out and playing, especially if you're someone that's not scared of horror like me. And if you are scared, find a friend that'll do it for you, because I do think it's worth experiencing for sure.
I do think this is a cool game you can play. We're a married couple here. So it's like, I think if you have a girlfriend, boyfriend, you want to spend a good time with, or a friend, I think this is a great game to do that.
Or even solo, but
even solo. Mostly now Halloween time. It's like perfect.
It's the perfect Halloween
game. It's like
game.
the perfect game. And I'm always down for a survival horror experience. We played Until Dawn. We played Until Dawn together. We played Resident Evil 4 kind of together. Resident Evil 7 kind of together. Alan Wake we played together.
Yeah.
And we played this one together. So I can tell you, like, you could play this with someone else. Even if, you don't want to, you can find, if you have a friend that likes playing this, I think this is a great experience. And I do recommend it to people out there.
Yeah. I would totally recommend it.
I think I'll tell you, gameplay is very simple. So that's not like something you're gonna get lost with.
Yeah.
The game is very linear.
Well, you don't have to worry about like inventory things. You do have to worry about having enough ammo and enough health. But like, I think about the difference between Resident Evil and this game. This game, right, you just have your 3 weapons. You don't have to worry about a suitcase carrying all this crap.
The survival horror is very basic. Because the survival horror comes through... Look, he's got the cat in the microphone. The survival horror is very basic. Like, it's... you just worry about having enough health and worry about having enough ammo.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about managing inventory, which is that's Resident Evil, right? Resident Evil, think about Resident Evil 4. You have a suitcase, and you have your pistol, you have your grenade launcher, your rocket launcher, your shotgun, your rifle,
and your health,
your submachine gun, your health stuff. You have grenades, you have explosives, you have all these, you have a knife, you have all these things that you have to manage on your suitcase. And if you don't have enough space, and also your ammo takes space, so it's like, it's a different kind of approach on the survival horror aspect. And this one's a little more simple.
I was gonna say it's a little more true to survival horror, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because the reality is you find these weapons in the world, and you just use what you can find.
And that's another thing, is that I think that this is what this game does great too, is that in Resident Evil or in Alan Wake, not when you're Alan Wake, but you're some kind of person that's an expert with guns. You're either a police officer, you are some guy in the military, or in some special corps guy, like Leon Kennedy, or you have Jill Valentine, you have Chris Redfield. Those guys are experts in guns. In this game, you're literally a normal guy.
Yeah, you're just some dude.
You're just some dude, and you just find weapons and guns around the world, and you're very trash at them.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to take a moment, because this is something that is very impressive to me. Most people may not think it's impressive, but I find it impressive that they made him incredibly average looking. And I know I mentioned that to you before, but I'm like, it's crazy because like, he's not unattractive, right? I would never look at him and go, oh, that guy's ugly. But I don't go and look at him like, wow, that guy's hot. Like, he's just somehow so
Average guy.
average. And it's incredible how the designers of the game made him look that way. Like I applaud them for that. That sounds stupid and crazy, but I think that's a
Just
big
to let
feat.
you know that he's average. He's average at using the pipe to hit stuff. Very average. He's very
Yeah.
average with a gun. Is shotguns and rifles. You're gonna probably feel a hard time shooting guys or the enemies like that. But I had a good time playing this game.
Oh, for sure.
18 hours. It was fun. Yep. All right. I think we're gonna close it here, guys. Well, thank you for listening. Please stay tuned as we post. We're probably gonna be posting another episode this week.
Yeah, you're going to get a bonus episode this week because we dropped the ball last week.
Yes.
So look out for 2 episodes this week, and then from that point out, it's going to be at least 1 a week.
Yeah.
To the best of our abilities.
Yeah, and just let you know, guys, is the reason if we drop the ball sometimes like that is we're trying to catch up. We're trying to play everything and try to give you guys a fair review, because that's, I think, what the gaming community kind of deserves in terms of, if you want to know if a game's good or bad, I think the person that needs to be talking about it, should actually know what's talking about and actually play it fully. So then they can give the other, their audience an understanding of what the game is and what they're getting into. And I hope that we're giving you guys that experience. So, thank you guys for listening, and stay tuned as we post another episode.
Yes. Please also don't forget to rate our podcast. You can follow us on Twitter as well at OneUpGamingPD.
Yep, and now you can find us on YouTube.
Yeah, and on YouTube
We're
as
gonna
well.
be posting these podcasts on YouTube as One Up Gaming as well. And so, yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.